When I first held my daughter in my arms, I thought my life had finally begun. Everything about those early years was chaotic and exhausting, but I thrived on it. Diaper changes at 3 a.m., sippy cups rolling under the couch, school projects due the next morning. It all made me feel needed. I wasn't just a woman anymore. I was mom, and that role consumed me completely. My husband Dan used to joke that the kids were my oxygen. He wasn't wrong. From the time our son and daughter were born until the day they left for college, my entire identity was wrapped around being their mother. I told myself I was balancing everything: wife, homemaker, part-time bookkeeper. But in truth, Dan came second, maybe even third after the kids in the house. It's strange looking back now, realizing how many times he tried to tell me. He'd ask me to go on weekend trips with him, just the two of us. I always said no because it was too hard to leave the kids. He suggested date nights, and I brushed it off because we were both tired. He told me more than once that he felt like we were roommates. I thought he was being dramatic. Didn't he understand that family life was supposed to come first? I didn't see what was coming until it was too late. When our youngest, Emily, left for college, the house felt like a stranger's home. For the first time in over 20 years, no one was shouting down the stairs about a lost shoe. No one needed me to sign a permission slip or make a dentist appointment. No one even needed me to make dinner, really. I had thought I'd enjoy it. I imagined Dan and I would finally reconnect, travel, maybe find hobbies together. But instead, the silence was suffocating. Dan and I would sit at the dinner table and barely say a word. He seemed restless, scrolling his phone or retreating to the garage. I hovered in the kitchen, wandering around like a ghost. The thing was, I didn't know who I was without being mom. The kids would call occasionally, but they were busy with classes, new friends, their own lives. When I hung up, the emptiness inside me deepened. I'd look at Dan and feel like I was staring at a stranger. And that's when he told me. It was a Friday evening, and I had made spaghetti because I didn't know what else to do. Dan sat across from me, twirling his fork absent-mindedly. His face was pale, his jaw tight. I knew something was wrong before he even spoke. "I can't do this anymore," he said, voice low but steady. I laughed, confused. "Can't do what?" "Eat spaghetti?" He set his fork down. "This. U.S., living like this. I feel like I've been waiting for years for you to see me again, and you never did. And now the kids are gone, and I realize there's nothing left here for me." I felt my stomach drop. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I want a divorce." The words hung in the air like smoke, choking me. I shook my head. No, you don't mean that. You're just struggling with the empty nest. Like me. We'll figure it out." He looked at me with eyes I didn't recognize anymore. Sad, but firm. I've been figuring it out for 20 years. I kept telling myself it would get better when the kids were older, that you'd have more time for me. But nothing changed. And now I don't want to spend the next 20 years feeling invisible. Invisible. That word pierced me like a blade. The divorce was quick. Dan didn't fight me for the house. He said he didn't want it. He moved into an apartment downtown, and just like that, my husband of 25 years was gone. The kids were furious with him at first. Emily called him selfish. Our son refused to answer his texts. I tried not to influence them, but secretly I agreed. How could he walk away now after everything we'd built? But the longer I sat in that quiet house, the more cracks in my anger began to show. I started replaying old conversations, old arguments. The times he asked me to watch a movie with him, and I said I was too busy folding laundry. The times he tried to kiss me, and I pulled away because the kids might see. The vacations I refused because I couldn't imagine leaving them with a babysitter. I thought I was being a good mother. And I was, but I wasn't being a good wife. That realization hurt worse than the divorce papers. In the months after Dan left, I tried to throw myself into distractions. I joined a yoga class, volunteered at the library, even took a painting workshop. But everything felt like a performance. like I was trying on costumes, pretending to be a woman who had it together. At night, I'd scroll through old family photos, the kids in Halloween costumes, Dan with his arm around me at the beach, birthday parties where I was too busy cutting cake to notice the way he looked at me. Sometimes I'd cry so hard I had to bury my face in a pillow so the neighbors wouldn't hear. And then came the day Emily called to tell me Dad had a girlfriend. She said it casually, like she was testing me. So, Dad brought someone to lunch today. Her name's Claire. I felt the blood drain from my face. Already? It's only been 6 months. Mom? Emily's voice softened. He seems happy. Happier than I've seen him in a long time. I forced a laugh. Well, good for him. But that night I fell apart. He had moved on. Not just moved out, but truly moved on. While I was still wandering through the ruins of our marriage, he had found someone new to build with. I started stalking her social media. Claire. She was younger than me, of course. Slim, blonde, with bright eyes that crinkled when she smiled. She posted pictures of wine tastings, concerts, hiking trips, things Dan used to beg me to do with him. I hated her, and I hated myself for understanding why he loved her. At first, the kids sided with me. They called more often, checked in, invited me to visit their campuses. But over time, their anger toward Dan softened. They started accepting his invitations, meeting Claire, even liking her. The first time my son told me Claire was actually really nice, I hung up the phone and sobbed until I thought I would break in half. It felt like losing him all over again. Not just as a husband, but as the father I thought my kids would always choose to stand with me against. But of course, that wasn't fair to them. Dan was still their dad. They deserved to have a relationship with him. I knew that logically, but my heart raged against it anyway. It's been 3 years now. 3 years since Dan walked out of that house and left me with the silence. The divorce is finalized, the kids are grown, and I'm still here, in the same house, rattling around like a ghost in a shell that doesn't fit anymore. I've dated here and there, but nothing sticks. I can't seem to let go of Dan completely, no matter how much I tell myself I need to. I compare every man to him, every date to the life we once had, and they always come up short. Sometimes, when I can't sleep, I wonder what would have happened if I had said yes to those trips, if I had made him a priority sooner, if I had looked at him the way I looked at the kids, like he was my whole world. Maybe we'd still be married. Maybe we'd be traveling together right now, holding hands in some little cafe in Italy. Or maybe not. I'll never know. All I know is that I built my entire life around being a mother, and when that role ended, I had nothing left to give. Dan wanted a wife, a partner. I wanted to stay a mom forever. And in the end, we both lost. People tell you about the empty nest, how hard it is to adjust when the kids leave. But no one warns you about what happens to your marriage if you don't nurture it along the way. I thought love was just showing up, paying the bills, raising the kids. I thought Dan would always be there, waiting patiently in the background. But love doesn't work like that. And now I'm the one left waiting, staring at a life that feels empty, wishing I could go back and do it differently. If I could give one piece of advice to anyone still raising kids, it would be this. Don't forget about each other. Because one day the house will be quiet. And if you haven't kept your marriage alive, you'll realize too late that you don't recognize the person sitting across the table. I learned that lesson the hardest way possible, and I live with it every single day. They say the easiest person to lie to is yourself. If that's true, then for 3 years I was a goddamn master of the craft. My name is Elena. I'm 34, a senior analyst for a firm that pays me enough to buy the silence of my own conscience. My husband David is, well, David is good. That's the word everyone uses. He's the kind of man who remembers your mother's birthday and actually knows how to fix a leaky faucet without calling a professional. He's steady. He's predictable. He's a slow-burning candle in a world that I wanted to set on fire. The fire started at a boring corporate mixer. His name was Julian. He wasn't better than David. Not in the ways that count. He was just new. He was a different language, a different texture. When we started, I told myself it was just a hobby. Some people take up pottery. I took up a 6'2" architect with a penchant for expensive gin and hotel rooms that smelled like ozone and bad decisions. For 2 years, I lived in the gaps. The gaps are those little pockets of time you steal. The late meeting that was actually an hour of tangled sheets in Chelsea. The girls' weekend that was actually a flight to Miami. I became a virtuoso of the digital footprint. I had a second phone, a sleek burner iPhone hidden inside the lining of an old designer handbag I never wore. I had separate emails. I had a version of myself that was so polished, David never saw the cracks. But here's the thing about fire. It's never satisfied. 6 months ago, Julian started getting heavy. He didn't want to be the secret anymore. He wanted the Sunday mornings. He wanted the grocery shopping. He wanted to be the one David was. And I, in my infinite arrogance, thought I could manage him. I thought I could keep the candle burning at home while I danced in the wildfire. It was a Tuesday. Always the mundane days where the floor falls out. I had just come home from a workout. I was flushed, heart still hammering from Julian's car, the smell of his cologne still faintly clinging to the crook of my neck despite the quick wet wipe scrub I'd done in the parking lot. David was in the kitchen. He was making pasta. The steam was rising, filling the room with the scent of garlic and basil. It felt so domestic, so suffocating. "Hey, Elle," he said, not looking up. "Good workout?" "Killer," I lied, dropping my gym bag by the door. "My legs are like jelly." "I bet." "Oh, by the way," he said, finally turning around. He held a glass of red wine in one hand. He looked calm. Too calm. "I was looking for that old brown leather tote of yours. The one you said you were going to donate. I thought I'd take it to the Goodwill pile in the garage." My heart didn't just skip a beat. It plummeted into my stomach. The burner phone. It was in the lining of that bag. "Oh, no, I decided to keep that one," I said, my voice an octave too high. "It's vintage. I'll go get it." "Too late," David said. He took a sip of wine. "I already found it." The world went silent. Not the silence of a quiet room, but the ringing silence of an explosion. "I found the phone, Elena. It was vibrating. Someone named Jay was sending you a photo. A very descriptive photo." I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just stood there, paralyzed by the sudden, violent light of the truth. I watched him set the wine glass down. His hands weren't shaking. That was the scariest part. "How long?" he asked. "David, How long, Elena?" 2 years, I whispered. He nodded, as if I'd just confirmed a delivery date for a sofa. "I've known for 6 months. I just wanted to see if you'd ever tell me. I wanted to see if there was any us left to save. But I watched you. I watched you come home and kiss me with this taste still on your lips. I watched you look me in the eye and tell me you loved me while you were texting him under the dinner table." He walked over to the counter and picked up his car keys. "Where are you going?" I asked, my voice finally cracking. "Away. The house is yours. The mortgage is paid through the month. My lawyer will be in touch on Monday." "David, wait. We can talk about this. It didn't mean anything." He stopped at the door. He looked at me, and for the first time in 10 years, I saw him clearly. He wasn't good David anymore. He was a stranger who happened to know my darkest secrets. "That's the saddest part, Elle," he said. "If it didn't mean anything, then you destroyed our entire life for nothing." He left. The click of the door was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. I sat in that kitchen for hours. The pasta water boiled dry. The smell of burning garlic replaced the basil. I reached for my real phone to call Julian. I needed him. I needed the fire. I called. No answer. I texted. "David knows. It's over. I'm coming over." 10 minutes later, I got a reply. Not from Julian, but from a number I didn't recognize. It was a photo of Julian and a woman I'd never seen before, younger, laughing, sitting on a beach. The text below it read, "Julian is back with his wife in California. He said to tell you, thanks for the fun, but he's choosing his family now. Please stop calling." I was alone. I looked around the beautiful, expensive kitchen that I'd spent a decade building. The granite counters, the designer lighting, the good husband, all gone. I had played the game of having it all, and I'd lost every single piece on the board. The aftermath wasn't an explosion. It was a slow, agonizing rot. The divorce was clinical. David didn't want to fight. He wanted an exit. He took the dog. He took the car. He took the respect of every friend we shared. Now, I live in a small, one-bedroom apartment on the other side of town. It's quiet. Too quiet. Sometimes I still reach for that hidden phone in the lining of a bag that isn't there anymore. I wait for a vibration that never comes. I thought I was the one in control. I thought I was the one holding the match. But as it turns out, when you play with fire, you don't just burn your house down. You burn yourself until there's nothing left but ash. 30 minutes doesn't sound like much. Half a sitcom. A commute. Time to fold laundry. But there was a day when 30 minutes felt like the distance between having a marriage and losing one. And I lost. Because I thought I had 30 more minutes. I was wrong. People think disaster announces itself. It doesn't. It arrives disguised as bad timing. An early return. A wrong turn. A schedule shifting by half an hour. And suddenly the life you were balancing on lies gives way. That's how mine happened. Not through evidence. Through timing. Timing and arrogance. Because I believed I had room. And betrayal loves people who think they have room. Daniel was supposed to be at a client dinner until 8. It was 5:30. I remember checking the oven clock. Then my phone. Then laughing when Ryan said, "You keep checking time like we're teenagers." Maybe because some guilty part of me knew time was the real danger. Not morality. Time. Ryan was at the house. Again. And even writing that still makes me ashamed. Because affairs become normalized through repetition. That's their trick. The impossible starts feeling routine. And routine breeds carelessness. At 6:12, Daniel texted. Dinner canceled. Heading back after one stop. I stared at it. One stop. I calculated. Traffic. Distance. At least 30 minutes. Plenty. That word again. Plenty. The word before ruin. I should have made Ryan leave immediately. Instead, we lingered. 5 stupid extra minutes. Talking. Kissing goodbye. Wasting the margin. Burning the only protection I had. I still think about those 5 minutes. How expensive they were. At 6:23, I heard the garage door, and every cell in me turned to ice. No. No. Impossible. Too soon. I had 30 more minutes. I was sure. Ryan looked at me. What? I whispered. He's home. And fear stripped everything romantic from the room. Just panic remained. Raw, ugly. Ryan grabbed his shoes. I tried thinking. Back door, fence, window, nothing made sense. Panic doesn't strategize. It flails. And we flailed. Then Daniel came through the mudroom, calling my name. Casual. Trusting. The sound nearly broke me, because he had no idea the world he thought he was entering had already split. I met him in the kitchen. Heart hammering so hard I thought he could hear it. Why are you home? I actually asked that. Too sharp. Too startled. He frowned. Forgot my laptop bag at the office, turned around, meeting canceled. A random sequence of tiny events. And here we were. Lives often turn on nonsense. Then came the sound. Upstairs. A door latch. Soft, but enough. Daniel looked up, and I knew whatever remained of the lie was collapsing. What was that? House settling, I said. Even as I said it, footsteps betrayed me. Muted. Careful. Human. Daniel's face changed. Not rage, recognition. And that was worse. He started toward the stairs. I stepped in front of him. Huge mistake. The kind panic makes. He looked at me and said quietly, "Move." Same quiet certainty that leaves no room for lies. I moved, because there was nothing else left. Ryan was halfway down the hall when Daniel saw him, frozen, shoes in hand, like a guilty cliché. It would almost be absurd if it hadn't been my life. No fight, no movie scene, just silence. Thick enough to choke on. Then Daniel said to Ryan, "Get out." Ryan did. Without heroics, without defending me, and somehow that made everything smaller, more pathetic. When the door shut behind Ryan, Daniel turned to me and asked, "How many times have you counted on having more time?" That question gutted me, because it understood everything. Not this incident. The whole architecture of deceit. I confessed. Months. Ryan, the affair, the house. Words spilling into a room that felt colder every second. Daniel listened, which was unbearable. I almost wished he'd yell. Silence can condemn harder. Then he said, "I came home early because I wanted to surprise you." And there it was. The knife. Because betrayal sharpened by kindness cuts deeper. I started sobbing, saying sorry. That frantic, useless flood. He asked only one more thing. If traffic had delayed me 30 minutes, would I still know nothing? And I couldn't answer. Because yes was the truth, and truth can be vicious. He packed that night, quiet, almost methodical. At the door he paused, then said, "You weren't wrong about 30 minutes. That's exactly how long our marriage had left." And left. I still hear that sentence. Ryan texted later, "Are you okay?" I stared at it and felt almost nothing, because whatever fantasy fed the affair had died under fluorescent kitchen light. Reality killed it. The divorce moved fast. Daniel had a frightening clarity after betrayal. No bargaining, no looping back, just endings. Some people fracture. He crystallized, and there was no arguing with Crystal. Months later, I asked if he ever considered forgiving me. He said, "I keep thinking about you believing you had 30 more minutes. That tells me how long you believed you had me fooled." And I understood then the betrayal wasn't only the affair, it was the confidence in deception. That wounded him too. Years later, I panic when plans change unexpectedly, even innocent changes. Someone early, a knock at the door, an arrival before expected. Because my body still remembers what sudden timing can do. People think marriages die from huge betrayals. Sometimes they die because someone miscalculated a half hour. Because 5 extra minutes seemed harmless. Because a garage door opened too soon. Because arrogance assumed margin. And there was none. What stays with me isn't being caught. It's the moment I heard the garage door and thought, impossible. I had 30 more minutes. That was the instant illusion ended. Everything after was just fallout. He didn't solve clues. He didn't suspect for months. He simply came home early. And I learned a life can come undone not through dramatic exposure, but through 30 stolen minutes that never really existed. I never thought I'd be that girl. The one who throws away a good man for something fleeting, something exciting. But here I am, writing this with a pit in my stomach, looking back on the worst decision I've ever made. My name's Emily. I'm 29 years old, and until a few months ago, I was engaged to a man named Daniel. We'd been together for 6 years. He was my rock. Steady, patient, kind to a fault. The kind of guy you marry. The kind of guy your parents adore. The kind of guy you can trust with your life. But maybe that was the problem. Because while Daniel was everything a woman should want, I felt like something was missing. And instead of working through it, instead of having an honest conversation, I betrayed him. I cheated. It started innocently enough. A few drinks with coworkers after a stressful week. I'd just wrapped up a big project and was feeling on top of the world. That's when I met Nathan. Nathan was electric. Charismatic in a way Daniel never was. He had this way of looking at you like you were the only person in the room. We flirted. I flirted back. One drink turned into 4. And before I knew it, we were kissing in the back of his car. I told myself it was a one-time thing. A stupid mistake. I swore I wouldn't see him again. But I did. Again and again. It turned into a full-blown affair. Nathan was exciting, spontaneous, dangerous. We'd sneak around like teenagers, secret hotel rooms, weekend conferences that were really just getaways with him. I was addicted to the rush, to feeling wanted in a way I hadn't in years. But the high never lasts forever. Daniel noticed. He didn't say anything at first, but I could feel the shift. He was quieter, more distant. He started asking questions, where I was, who I was with, if everything was okay. I lied through my teeth. I told myself I was protecting him, that if he never found out, it wouldn't hurt him, that I could go on like this until... What? Until I got it out of my system? Until I magically fell back in love with Daniel? I was delusional. Everything came crashing down one Friday night. I came home late, claimed I'd been out with my sister. Daniel was sitting on the couch, his face pale, his hands shaking. "I know," he said. Just 2 words. I froze. "Know what?" He didn't raise his voice. He didn't cry. He just looked at me, looked through me and said, "I know you're cheating on me." I wanted to deny it. I really did. But something in his eyes told me it was over. He'd seen the messages, the hotel receipts, the calls I thought I'd deleted. All I could say was, "I'm sorry." It was pitiful. He stood up, grabbed a small bag from the hallway. "I'm staying at my brother's. I'll send someone for the rest." And just like that, he was gone. The silence in that apartment was deafening. It's been 3 months since that night. I haven't seen Daniel since. He blocked me on everything. His friends won't talk to me. His mom, who used to call me her daughter, sent me a single text. "We're heartbroken. Please don't contact us again." Nathan, he ghosted me the second he found out Daniel knew. Said he wasn't looking for drama. Turns out he had a girlfriend the entire time. Classic. I'm alone now. I moved out of our apartment. Couldn't afford it on my own. I'm back living with my parents who don't know the full story. I told them we drifted apart. I can't even bring myself to say the words. I cheated. I destroyed something beautiful. For nothing. I see Daniel's life online. He's not private like me. He's traveling, going to the gym, smiling in pictures with people I don't recognize. He looks free. He looks happy. And I'm drowning in regret. I miss him. Not just the comfort or the routine. I miss him. His stupid dad jokes. The way he'd leave me little notes in my lunchbox. How he'd warm up my side of the bed on cold nights. I thought I wanted more. But more turned out to be less. So much less. If you're reading this and you're where I was, feeling bored, restless, unfulfilled, talk to your partner. Be honest. Be brave. Don't do what I did. Don't burn down your house because you saw a flicker of fire somewhere else. Some mistakes can't be undone. Some people you don't get back. I don't expect sympathy. I don't even know why I'm posting this. Maybe just to scream into the void. Maybe to remind someone out there that cheating isn't glamorous. It's not empowering. It's not some romantic escape. It's a betrayal. And the fallout? It will haunt you. I live with what I did every day. And the worst part isn't losing Daniel. It's knowing I chose to lose him. For nothing. Just nothing. I tried to move on. I downloaded dating apps, made a profile, got all dolled up and forced myself to go out with strangers who looked nothing like Daniel and cared even less. I told myself I was doing the whole single and empowered thing. But it was all fake. Every date felt like a poor imitation of what I had. Every smile a reminder of the warmth I threw away. I'd laugh and flirt and then come home to cry into my pillow like some cliché breakup montage. I stopped after the third guy told me, "You seem like you're not really over someone." He was right. I wasn't. I'm still not. The worst part is the questions I keep asking myself over and over. Why didn't I just talk to him? Why didn't I say, "Hey, I'm feeling stuck," or "Can we try something new together?" Why was I too cowardly to face the truth of what I was feeling with the person I claimed to love? Maybe it's because part of me wanted to sabotage it. Maybe I didn't feel worthy of the kind of love Daniel gave me. Maybe I was looking for a reason to blow it up so I wouldn't have to deal with my own unhappiness. I don't know. I really don't. All I know is I had something rare, something most people would kill for, and I let it rot from the inside out. People don't talk enough about the aftermath of cheating. Not the scandal, not the drama, but the emptiness. The way it eats at you. The way it changes how you look at yourself in the mirror. I thought I was a good person. Not perfect, but good. I helped my friends. I supported my family. I volunteered at the animal shelter on Sundays, for God's sake. But now? Now I see someone capable of lying, of sneaking around, of looking a man who adored me in the eye and saying, "Nothing's going on," while I had another man's touch still lingering on my skin. It makes you question everything. I've started therapy. My therapist says I need to work on self-awareness, self-compassion, self-forgiveness. But how do you forgive yourself for being the villain in someone else's story? How do you sit with the knowledge that the person you hurt will carry that pain into their future relationships? That they'll question their worth, their trust, their instincts because of you? It's unbearable some days. I reached out to Daniel once. Just once. I wrote this long, apologetic email. I didn't beg for him back. I didn't make excuses. I just told him I was sorry. Truly, deeply sorry. That I understood why he left. That I hoped he was healing. He never responded. But I know he read it. I saw the read notification. I stared at my screen for hours after that, hoping he'd say something, even if it was just, "I hate you." But there was nothing. Just silence. Maybe that's what I deserve. The silence. The not knowing. I bumped into a mutual friend last week. Erica. We hadn't spoken since the breakup, but we used to be close. I asked her how Daniel was doing, bracing for the worst. She gave me this look. Not cruel, just sad. Like I was someone she used to feel sorry for, but now she didn't even know what to feel. "He's doing good," she said carefully. "He's seeing someone." That felt like a punch to the gut. I smiled, pretended to be happy for him, and changed the subject as fast as I could. But that night, I cried harder than I have in months. Because of course he is. Of course he moved on. He didn't betray anyone. He didn't destroy trust. He didn't throw away 6 years for a few nights of ego and adrenaline. She probably doesn't flinch when he touches her. She probably doesn't second-guess every sweet word that leaves his mouth. She gets the best version of him, the version I broke into pieces and he had to put back together. I wonder if she knows about me. If she knows what I did. If she's helping him heal. Or if he keeps that part of himself locked away now. Either way, I don't blame him. If I were him, I wouldn't look back either. Some nights I still dream about him. I dream I walk into our old apartment and he's waiting for me, arms open, saying he forgives me, that we can start over. I wake up drenched in sweat, heart pounding, the fantasy dissolving into cold, unforgiving reality. We don't get second chances. Not with betrayals like this. The only thing I can do now is be better. Own it. Talk about it. Help others not make the same mistake. That's why I'm writing this. Not for pity. Not for redemption. But because if even one person sees themselves in my story, feels that itch of temptation, that boredom, that craving for validation, and thinks, maybe I should talk to my partner instead, then maybe my story won't be a total waste. Maybe the pain will mean something. I'm not proud of who I was, but I'm trying to be proud of who I'm becoming. And maybe, just maybe, one day I'll be able to look someone in the eye again and say, I've made terrible mistakes, but I've grown from them. Until then, I keep putting one foot in front of the other, alone, but honest. And that's a start. It's been almost a year now. The dust has mostly settled. I no longer check Daniel's socials obsessively. I no longer torture myself imagining their relationship. I still think about him, more often than I'd like. But the tears come less now. I found a journal entry from 2 years ago the other day, when Daniel and I were apartment hunting. We were so excited, dreaming about paint colors, arguing over whether to get a dog or a cat first. Reading it gutted me. I felt like I was watching ghosts dance. But I kept reading. And instead of letting the guilt consume me, I let it teach me. Remind me that love is sacred, that trust is fragile, and that once it's broken, no amount of sorry can patch it back to the way it was. Would I do anything to go back and change things? Of course. But life doesn't give us rewinds, only lessons. And mine was this. If you're unhappy in your relationship, cheating won't fix it. It'll just break two hearts instead of one.